This is Frequencies Can Heal. Do I? Yes. I did this last year and I went back because I've gotten a number of emails from a number of you wanting to know more about frequency, on healing. A lot of you talk about the Schumann resonance. So I went back and I looked at this presentation that I put together and I thought, well, this is a good presentation. And I let's go ahead and take a look at it again. I think you're going to like it. So this is the remake, all right? One of the things I learned a couple of years ago by an individual who was really just quite a remarkable person who really had an understanding on frequencies and harmonics, particularly its impact on the human brain and body. And as I began to go through, I mean, folks, just an enormous amount of research material to validate, number one, for myself, something I think all of us instinctively and intuitively know. We respond to frequencies. Music. Some people like country and western. Some people like rock. Some people like classical. No matter what it is, it's still a frequency and a harmonic. It's just true in what we are. So the brain, your brain, my brain, all brains respond to electromagnetic fields. And depending on the specific frequency affects certain parts of the brain. They can make us sad. They can make us glad. They can make us mad. They can make us whatever they would like for us to do. Now, you say, well, Wayne, back this up. Well, I will. We have acoustic weapons. LARD is one. And it's a loud acoustic resistant, and I forget the other part of that. But basically, if they point it at you, you're going to drop. The pain will become so intense, it will incapacitate you. They can also now use microwaves in such a narrow, constrictive beam that they can begin to cook you. This is all frequencies. I like this because my background is in building data systems. So let's take this from a point of view that we're going to build a software program. Now, this software program is going to allow us, whoever we download it to on the app, that we are taking the data acquisition from the brain. And from that, we're going to break it down into its individual components. We're going to get into the minutia. So this is you, this is me. This is how feedback is received by the brain, how it is then interpreted. And remember, folks, it's all electric. Everything. Everything the brain does, everything you see, everything you smell, everything you touch, everything you taste is nothing more than electrical impulses firing along the synaptic pathway of your brain, hitting into different components, and then all coming down into the cerebral cortex. That's your reality. That's all it is. No matter how much other you want to add to it, that is reality. It's all electrical impulses. Now, using that law, that principle, we can then begin to get into the finer details. So let's take a look at this, right? So we come up here into our data acquisition, right? So we're now going to have to put this through what I will term a neural processor. All right, from there, that then begins to reduce it down. We can now begin to develop feature extractions of what we want. We don't need all the data. What we need is key points of the data. From there, we can then begin to build into our data sets. So we come in here to a translation algorithm. Now, why do we have to have a translation algorithm? Well, a computer is only going to be able as what we call machine code, right? It comes down to basically zeros and ones. We have to build an algorithm in order for it to do the thinking. That's what algorithms do. They're very, very quick, and you can get patents on them, and that's pretty much what's running our lives today, our background algorithms, AI. Now, from here, we can see into each translation, what we're going to do is break this down into the 4 primary components of any bio unit. Visualization. Our reality is predicated on visual imagery. Now, if you lose that aspect, it then picks up, as we know, with the others. So we come in here, we understand light, colors, images. We can do this in video, motion, animation. Now, imagery is great, but to enhance it, to make it more real, to make it to become imprinted upon the hippocampus that you can actually then recall short-term, long-term, you have to have sound. So sonification, audification. Sound, as we have just discussed, is powerful. This is powerful as visual acuity. All right, now let's get down into more of the what I call the real fundamentals. You have the haptic, you have the tactile stimulus. This is temporal and spatial information. We move in a 3D construct. And in order for you to be able to move through that, you're going to have a number of other sensors to help you put yourself where you stand. And it's not an easy process. We take it just so matter of fact. But when you break this down, it's complex. Lastly, we want the olfactory stimulation. We want the scent, the odors, the pheromones. Listen, we all know about hormones. Particularly, the younger you are, you're more in tune to this because, well, it's just you got this weird imbalance going on in your bodies. But anyway, smell, as we all know, is as powerful as any other of the 5 senses. In my case, if you, for instance, if you could not see, and if you could not hear, and if you could not speak, I have well, we know by the studies. Your other 2 senses will become hyper. And I can only imagine what that is. Dogs, for instance, can smell 1,000 times greater than human beings. So here we go. Now we have our program, and you can see how all of this is done. So let's take this now to the next step. Now, chemtrailing. Lot of debate on this. We all see it. And there is now good science to begin to see what these nanoparticles will actually do to us. Look at it like this. The nanoparticles internalized in the cells. Everything we breathe becomes a part of our cell makeup. That's why we have such epidemics of cancer. I believe most cancers today are in fact man-made, induced. Look what the brain does. The neurological diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Why are these two particular diseases, ladies and gentlemen, at epidemic proportions? We can look at the genealogy, the ancestry, and we don't see this. Why? Now, asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, cancer, everything you breathe, this is where that data acquisition starts taking place. And it goes from there. Now, the interesting thing about nanoparticles, look what happens in the lab when you expose them to certain frequencies. Yeah. All right. In order to be able to find the answer to a problem, you have to begin to see what are the symptoms. Why are you systemic to this? So the stress and emotions creation cycle, look at this. Heart and small intestines, negative emotions, hate, cruelty, impatience. Man, folks, I see so much hate. What is wrong with people? They're killing themselves. And the hate, I mean, I tell you what, if most of the people who think that they're celebrities, legends in their own mind, would buy duct tape and put it over their mouth, they would be giving humanity the best gift ever of their talents. Now look at this. If you've got sickness in you, I will 100% assure you this is at the base cause. It's a fact. All right, stress and anger, jealousy, envy, frustration. It's all going to impact you. Physical symptoms. The liver produces more cholesterol. Bile production becomes imbalanced, impairing digestion. Blood stagnates in the liver, reducing its ability to detox the body. This is what your stress, your hate, the jealousy, the spewing that's coming out at 24/7 out of the news media, out of the radio stations, anyone who's taken this political crap and begins to divide, this is what it's going to do to you. It's designed to do that away. And then guess what? You got the pharmaceuticals who just laughing because they're about to pick your pocket clean. All right, let's go on. Liver, gallbladder. Do you know how many people I know in their 30s that are getting their gallbladders removed? Negative emotions, anger, jealousy, envy. Want to keep on? Yeah, we will. Look at what this does over here for the kidneys and the bladder. This is what fear does, folks, to your body. Loss of primordial and sexual energy. The body becomes acidic. The nervous system becomes stressed. Loss of life force. They're doing it to us, and then we take it from there. And as these become over the years, and years become decades, this is what happens, folks. Your bio body rejects the life force. Are you getting it? Let's continue. Yeah, it is all connected. All right, stress, anger, plus hate, plus impatience and cruelty. Physical symptoms, palpitations, high blood pressure, chest pains. How many of you, when you get so much in fear, you are so internalized with turmoil, this is what happens. Why are people in their 30s dying of heart attacks? Check me out on this. Nowadays, if you are fortunate enough to get past 60, Don't ever look at anyone older than 60 with disdain. You ought to be freaking getting down and shaking their hand and ask them how they did it, because the odds are against you ever getting there. I know it sounds negative, but you got to be honest before you can really get healed, right? Stress, anger, hate, plus worry, plus anxiety, plus mistrust. Physical symptoms: impaired digestion, difficulty eliminating waste produced by digestion. In other words, you can't take a crap properly without some chemical to stimulate either the bowels loosening or the bowels tightening. And then you want to know why all of the Nexium and all of the anti-acid producing drugs are there? This is why. Look what it does to your spleen, the stomach, and the pancreas. Negative emotions, worry, anxiety, and mistrust. Let me tell you, folks, when you begin to see how many people are being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and by the way, that's a death sentence. And if you're having problems in your midlife with these organs, that shouldn't be. So let's look at this. Number 5, stress, anger, anxiety, depression, plus sadness, physical symptoms, breathing problems, decreased oxygen in the blood, constipation. Look what it does to the lungs and large intestines, negative emotions, sadness, depression. It's all connected, my friends. I as well have suffered from this. Yeah. That's why meditation, choosing to be kind, focusing on this. And the last things they want us to do is to ever get hip to it. All right. So there are 6 primarily what we call solifico frequencies. Now, test this out for yourself. The 396 megahertz, liberating guilt and fear. 417, undoing situations and facilitating change. 528, transformation and miracles. DNA repair. Yeah, that if the DNA can be destroyed, harmed, and altered by frequencies, it can also be healed. 639, connecting relationships. 741, expression solutions. 582, returning to spiritual order. So you can use this, kind of just place it all over the place. Make a copy of this, put it on your refrigerator, put it in your bathroom mirror, put it in your office, and start using this. Number 1 is your safe zone. This is what's going to keep that life force energy flowing in you. It makes your body a receptor for this instead of rejecting. Okay? Number 2, productive zone. Higher concentration, you're effective, you're energetic, you're prolific. You've got life, and life abundant. 3, the performance zone. This is your optimum place. Your focus, you're in the flow. You are intuitively in tune to the biofeedback of your body. Your soul is now beginning to rise and take prominent position in your Cater. The top chakra is now dominating. Your spirit is now rising to where it needs to be. And look what happens. You got the positive stress. Yeah, you know, stress is both good and bad. When you go to the gym, you're stressing your body. You're actually damaging your muscles in order to get them to grow stronger. You have fulfillment. You have this thing where you walk around and people look at you and they can look at you and say, that person is at a place I want to be at. You walk around and you absolutely emanate a flow of energy. And people just want to be next to you. Why? Because they hunger for that. We have to teach them this. Now, everything within moderation. But look what happens when you start reaching zone 4. This should immediately start sending off red flags, warnings, everything. Worried, anxious, angry, scattered, fearful, reactive. That should immediately send to your cognitive core for you immediately shut down and get back down in zone 1. But today, because of so much external stimuli, both in the electromagnetic soup that we're in, what this does, it actually feeds off it and it triggers to go into zone 5. And this is indeed the danger zone. Out of control, road rage. How many of people, I have seen people do stuff that you just go, what the freak is wrong with that person? Total panic, frantic, disconnected. Everything is an emergency. And all you're going to do, your body is going to do it, is produce toxicity. Toxicity in your body, toxicity in your brain, toxicity in your soul, everything. We don't want this. Now, there are machines that, in fact, listen, when I was recovering from being paralyzed from the meningitis and the Lyme disease, the whole left side of my body was paralyzed. And how I've gotten back to nearly 99% of total functionality was by using a TENS unit. Yeah, it works. And by the way, if you suffer from nerve damage, if you have constant muscle aches and what have you, go and buy a TENS unit. It will work. Buy a frequency machine if you can afford it. All right. So let's take a look at this so that we understand how our body really works here. The right side controlled by the left brain, right musculin or the yang, reflects the outer world. The left side is controlled by the right side. You see how even our brain is this yin and yang? Yeah, folks, it's in us. It is the feminine, it's the yin, and reflects the inner world. And as each one works, you can see how the throat center, self-expression issues, lack of trust, inability to speak, feelings, thyroid problems, the outer world burdens, sudden and the burdens and responsibilities, carrying a heavy load, weight, on your shoulders. How many people have you seen? And I tell you, go out to where people are in large groups, and you can see it, folks. You can see by the way that their body is speaking. And many times their shoulders are weighed down. Look over here on the inner world burdens. Carrying a heavy load, it affects us all internally. It's no way you can get out of it. It's there. All the way down. And I'll just let this be up here for a few seconds. And you can see how this says over here. You know, a lot of women have issues, particularly with the reproductive organs, the digestive organs. Why? Because women tend to trap their emotions across the pelvis, affecting the cycle. And let's not even talk about betrayal. What that does, I will tell you this, it ages you. Yeah. You want to know how to be able to reverse the aging process? Now, you cannot defy gravity. It's just some things. And a lot of times we know as well is that we're fighting environmental things. But I will tell you this. If you can keep that life force flowing, keeping that energy, you have to forgive, folks, and forget. That'll keep you young. Well, all those that you graduated from high school, by the time they get to 50, they look like they're well into their 70s, and here you come bouncing in. Every woman will hate you. All right. So, as we begin to understand how the frequencies are working, how the emotions work, how the brain works, how we get the input and what it produces, now you can begin to understand that each part of your body has an effect on the rest of the body. By the way, if you ever look at your hands, put them out there in front of you, both hands. Just put them out there, palms facing your face. You just seen God. All right, the law of vibration. It's immutable. In other words, it cannot ever be disputed. Only a fool would dispute. And we're not fools here, are we? The third of the 7 universal laws tells us that nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The third and last of the immutable universal laws tells us that the whole universe is but a vibration. Science has confirmed that everything in the universe, including you, is pure energy vibrating at different frequencies. Everything that we experience with our 5 physical senses is conveyed through vibrations. The same applies to the mental realm. Your thoughts are vibrations. All your emotions are vibrations where unconditional love, in the sense of love for another, is the highest and most subtle of the emotional vibrations. And hate is the densest and most base. You can learn to control your mental vibrations at will. Folks, on the secret knowledge, oh. All right. So it's important to have an understanding of waves. You have the delta waves, you got the theta waves, you have the alpha waves, and you have the beta waves. Okay? Big delta waves occurs when you're in deep, dreamless sleep. Newborns sleeping this deep. But few adults do. You know why the newborns do? We'll deal in another one of that, but I tell you, you learn that secret, changes you. All right, theta waves occur when you are in the dream sleep, REM. Theta is the goal when you meditate or use self-hypnosis. This is where you want to get. You can get machines that'll help you into this. In fact, I'm pretty sure that you can actually find now, probably on YouTube, that will help you into this. All right, alpha waves is when you're relaxed, like daydreaming or watching TV. Low alpha is the most pre-sleep and almost awake drowsiness. Now you know why they want you addicted to television. Beta are the awake states. They vary from low beta states to mid and high. Each one, you want to kind of keep it again at that low wave, that cycle. Live longer. So when we talk about the Schumann resonance, right? Understand, folks, the earth vibrates. And if the earth is vibrating, when she's sending out her signals, you're going to be vibrating and picking them up. A lot of people ask, what is the Schumann resonance? So here we go. The fundamental mode of the Schumann resonance is a standing wave in the Earth's ionosphere cavity with a wavelength equal to the circumference of the Earth. So you got a little bit of geometry here. This lowest frequency and highest intensity mode of the Schumann resonance occurs at a frequency of approximately 7.8 megahertz. The ninth overtone lies at approximately 60 megahertz. And thus the cavity is also driven by the North American power grid. Detectable overtones extend upwards into the kilohertz range. Schumann resonances have gone beyond the boundaries of physics, including medicine, raising interest in artists and musicians, and gaining interest from fringe fields such as the psychobiology and yoga. Fringe. Well, we may have that, but we're going to keep in the right frequency. We're going to receive knowledge and we're going to process it. All right. So now let's get into frequencies as to what they do. At 2 megahertz, nerve regeneration, 7, bone growth, 10, ligament healing, 15 to 20, stimulation of capillary formation. In other words, we can get blood flow. Yeah. Anyone who suffers from varicose veins will tell you about this. All right. So again, let's look at the negative effect of our emotions. Again, fear, no willpower, low capacity for hard work, no endurance. You can just go right on a line here. Each one is going to affect you. And if you suppress it, then what you've done is that you will never realize until many times when it's at the point of criticality what those suppressed feelings and emotions will do, particularly the negative ones. The positive ones will always come out. You can't keep it down. All right. So now I'm getting into where you can actually see how these wavelengths, these frequencies look like. It's all connected, folks. And again, once you begin to understand this and begin to apply it, and if you don't need it, well, that's fine. You just got yourself more information. But I have found that when I can feel, like I have become much more sensitive to geomagnetic storms. I mean, I can feel it. Feel it in my body. And I'm having now to learn how to begin to get my body to be more, how shall we say, in a protective zone when these disturbances hit our planets. So this is an actual how this thing works. Now, this was done in 1974, right? And you can go to the website right there, www.raven1, and check this out, folks. This is what they use now in the frequency weapons. And they are weapons. All these Gwen towers going up everywhere. Remember, it's just not for communication, folks. It's forming a true web. Think about that. So here we get into, again, the delta, theta, alpha, and beta. And I'm showing this because I know visuals help us all learn. And so when someone says to you, talks about delta waves, well, you're immediately going to see this graph. You're going to know what this means. So we're going to get into it. In fact, I'm going to have a guest that will help bring this a little bit more, how we can begin as we go to sleep to program our bodies in healing. You know, that is when healing takes place, is when you're into this delta mode. It's also when sickness will come on. We don't think about this when we go to sleep, the vulnerability that it can work for us. It can be both positive and negative. So look at each one of these. I can tell you this. I've learned the technique of doing power naps. I can literally take a 5-minute deep sleep nap and awaken from that more energized, with more creativity, new thoughts. Visualization, if you can begin to really master the visualization process, you'll be a master. You already are. You just haven't learned how to control it. So, theta, alpha, brainwave patterns. You learn the rhythmic electrical waves of the brain that sweeps across the brain. It's all the time affecting us, folks. So the alpha state, leading to drowsiness or twilight sleep, also known as reverie. Visual sense is not engaged actively, typically triggered when the eyes are closed and attention turns inward. Characteristics of Zen meditation practices. Theta, it's associated with actual sleep states with dreams, including the meditative state. When the brain waves cross over from the lowest alpha into the upper theta, this is the moment when sleep has really begun. There are a number of unique things that take place at this moment, both in the brain, the central nervous system, and the body, and the soul as well. All impacting, folks, frequencies, harmonics, waves. Now, this also will work in helping where memories are concerned. Because, again, memories are triggered by electrical pulses. Yeah. So here we get into this now. You can see if you have issues with thyroid, the thymus glands, the heart, lungs, liver, stomach, pancreas, and all the way down into the colon. There is so much research that now shows that this is not a pseudoscience. It is a real science. And look at the benefits: reduction of pain, increase immune function. You know, isn't it odd that today more and more diseases are coming where actually it's the body that's turning in on itself? The immune system is out of whack. Stress reduction and relaxation. Your love life will increase with your partner, particularly if both of you practice this. Super boosted healing response. My wife's a nurse. As she will tell you, I have the most amazing ability in healing. I can cut myself, and 3 days later, it's virtually all gone. Many of you are like that. Others a little bit different. But what I'm trying to point out to you is that I believe firmly a lot of this is because of how you keep this going in place. Now, I talk about diseases. What is it that we notice about this? The healthy point is at the lower end of the frequency spectrum. The disease is at the upper end of it, particularly cancer. Think about that. Cancer is at the upper end of the frequency spectrum. 5G, upper frequency spectrum. The Gwyn towers, everything is at a heightened megahertz frequency. Is there a connection? I ask you, is there a connection? There is. Now, I know that this particular one is a little washed out, but I think you can see what it's talking about. It's the electronic harassment weapons effect, and they're using them right now. They've had the technology since '74. At least that's when the patents were filed. So, electromagnetic fields, EMF, have variable energies and frequencies. Earth's natural EMF frequencies are measured daily to the average value of 7.8 megahertz. That's called the Schumann resonance. The heartbeat is an electrical impulse. Brain waves are electromagnetic brain signals. Dr. Robert Becker started that during meditating. The brain creates strong electromagnetic signals around 7 to 9 megahertz called alpha waves. Now, if you can master and manipulate at that level, what do you think? Now, essential oils, they have a direct correlating response. And look at them, look at where they are in the megahertz. All at the lower end. More. Each one has a different effect. The earth gives us all that we need for healing. So, as you can see, again, medical science knows this. You know, every part of our body will respond to a specific frequency. Everything. It's amazing, is it not? So as we go forward, we understand more and more about what they're doing to us, what we're doing to ourselves. This is the thing that really bothers me, I guess, the worst, is that today we can't get out of this electromagnetic soup. The frequencies are everywhere, low, high, medium. I mean, have you ever just been driving along and all of a sudden, bam, man, it's like something hits you and you either drop out emotionally or, you get suddenly angry. And then as you drive along, it leaves. It's real. It happens. And this is what we have to begin to learn. Now, there's a lot of slides here, I know, but each one shows you how the earth has been responding, how it responds, how the universe responds. Everything, ladies and gentlemen, is based upon frequency, harmonics. Everything. Well, this is what happens when a healer will touch you. It can be measured. And when the recipient receives, it's where you get in that place of what we call miracles. So one more time, learn your emotions of your organs, learn what happens when you start getting into these funky states. Helps you in your meditative process because you can zero in. It isn't elusive. And when you look at this, it's all around us. I think more and more what we need to focus on is where can we find sanctuary, right? And every geometric shape has a frequency, a color. This is what the Zephyr teaches. Did you know your heart is more powerful than the brain? It's 100,000 times stronger electrically and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. What does that say? Says a lot. So I hope you have found that this has helped you, to those of you who have been asking. Again, this is a remake of a video that I did a number back. It's in the archives. Do I believe that these machines can do it? Yeah, I do. Now, wisdom says that if you're in a critical state, then you need to get all the weapons you can. The first one is getting control of your mind, understanding how your mind is working, how it affects the body, so that you can get to this place of higher vibration. And that is the goal. Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. Buddha. True. We know that. So when you now hear connect to source, source lives within you. Doesn't live on the outside. There's nothing on the outside that is ever going to do you any good if you ignore the inside. Get to know yourself, connect to the source, and then help others. Boy, if we could just take on, if someone take us on as an apprentice, right? That's what the Core 100 group is about. And then from there, as we begin to graduate to journeyman status, then we will take on apprentices underneath us again. And then as they're evolving and growing, we are as too. All of us want to ascend to a master state. That is the goal. And that can only happen when you connect to the source. All right, my friends, be kind to one another. We will talk soon.